Welcome to Hitchhikers TV. Welcome to Hitchhikers TV. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, commenting, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This is for educational purposes. Let's explore together the amazing place around the globe, as we study the different amazing place on Earth. Number 51. Lascaux and Lascaux II, France. Lascaux is a complex of caves near the village of Montignac, in the department of Dordogne in southwestern France. Lascaux II, an exact copy of the Great Hall of the Bulls and the Painted Gallery, was displayed at the Grand Palais in Paris. The volume of traffic began to take its toll on the prehistoric art. Because of the damage caused to the prehistoric art by thousands of visitors each week, Lascaux was closed to the public in 1963. The Ministry of Culture embarked on an intensive and expensive project to create a replica. First studied by the French archaeologist Henri-Édouard Prosper Breuil, the Lascaux grotto consists of a main cavern 66 feet wide and 16 feet high. The walls of the cavern are decorated with some 600 painted and drawn animals and symbols and nearly 1,500 engravings. Of the animals, equines predominate 364. There are 90 paintings of stags. Also represented are cattle, bison, felines, a bird, a bear, a rhinoceros, and a human. Among the most famous images are 4 huge, black bulls or aurochs in the Hall of the Bulls. Among the paintings at Lascaux, 900 of them are of animals. And 605 of these can be identified with some precision. Animals depicted include 364 horses and 90 stags. There are also cattle and bison. Why did the cave paintings of Lascaux deteriorate more in 15 years after their discovery than 15,000 years before? Because the discoverers brought in fungus on their shoes and changed the humidity and temperature of the caves with their breathing. The stable temperature and humidity in caves, a lack of human contact, and long-lasting painting materials have combined to allow many ancient cave paintings to survive in nearly pristine condition. Those drawings are located in deeper, harder-to-access parts of caves, indicating that acoustics was a principal reason for the placement of drawings within caves. The drawings, in turn, may represent the sounds that early humans generated in those spots. On September 12, 1940, the entrance to the Lascaux cave was discovered by 18-year-old Marcel Revidat when his dog, Robot, fell in a hole. Revidat returned to the scene with 3 friends, Jacques Marcel, Georges Agnel, and Simon Coencas. The cave painting at Lascaux is most likely to date back to about 15,000 to 17,000 BCE, with the earliest art being created no later than 17,000 BCE. What inspired Paleolithic painters? Experts have suggested that the caves with the best acoustics may have been chosen for ancient artwork depicting hunting scenes and cultural practices. This is so these caves could be used during ancient religious ceremonies, which often included chanting and singing. Number 52. Chichén Itzá, Mexico. Chichén Itzá is a complex of Mayan ruins on Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. A massive step pyramid, known as El Castillo or Temple of Kukulkan, dominates the ancient city, which thrived from around 600 AD to the 1200s. Graphic stone carvings survive at structures like the Ball Court, Temple of the Warriors and the Wall of the Skulls. Nightly sound and light shows illuminate the building's sophisticated geometry. The brilliant ruins of Chichén Itzá evidence a dazzling ancient city that once centered the Maya Empire in Central America. The stepped pyramids, temples, columned arcades, and other stone structures of Chichén Itzá were sacred to the Maya and a sophisticated urban center of their empire from AD 750 to 1200. It is considered to be one of the 7 wonders of the New World. Located on the Yucatan Peninsula, Chichen Itza was a large city built by the Maya people. It thrived from about 600 AD until 1221, when the power in the region shifted to Mayapan. Today it can be visited by tourists and religious pilgrims alike. The ancient Mayans lived in what is now known as southern Mexico and northern Central America, including Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, Yucatan Peninsula, and El Salvador. Their descendants still live there today, and many of them speak the Mayan languages. Chichen Itza is one of the new 7 wonders of the world, and one of the most popular destinations in the Yucatan Peninsula and Mexico. The Mayan site is definitely worth a visit, and although it can get horrendously busy, follow these tips and you'll get the most out of your trip. Despite all rates of unsafe Mexico's places, Chichen Itza is far from dangerous. The place receives over 1 million tourists a year and approximately 70% of them are foreigners. You can imagine that this is one of the most visited places in the world. So, it's totally safe to visit. Chichen Itza was a Mayan city on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Although it's an important tourist attraction, Chichen Itza also remains an active archaeological site. Chichen Itza was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1988 and, in 2007, it was voted in a global survey as one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Number 53. Lishan Giant Buddha, China. The Lishan Giant Buddha is a 71-meter-tall stone statue, built between 713 and 803, depicting Maitreya. It is carved out of a cliff face of Cretaceous red bed sandstones that lies at the confluence of the Min River and Data River in the southern part of Sichuan province in China, near the city of Lishan. About 70 years later, Jideshi Wei Gao decided to sponsor the project and the construction was completed by Haitong's disciples in 803. By the beginning of the Northern Song dynasty, the Lishan Giant Buddha had been damaged, the body was covered in moss, and the wooden pavilion had collapsed. Why was the Lishan Giant Buddha built? Haitong was concerned about the safety of local people living near the 3 rivers. He believed that the Buddha would keep the turbulent waters calm. The most remarkable manifestation of this is the 71-meter-tall giant Buddha of Lishan. Carved in the 8th century CE on the hillside of Zihuo Peak overlooking the confluence of 3 rivers, it is the largest Buddhist sculpture in the world. The Lishan Giant Buddha, also named the Lingyun Giant Buddha, is the largest stone Buddha in the world, standing at 71 meters in height. It's been carved out of the side of a mountain to the east of Lishan in Sichuan province. This site alone makes the city of Lishan famous for travelers around the world. It took 90 years to carve the Lishan Giant Buddha during the Tang dynasty. At that time, worshipping Maitreya was popular and the local people believed that carving the statue could bring them brightness and happiness. This Maitreya statue sits facing the flowing rivers, the Min, Qinghai, and Data rivers, with his hands upon his knees, and his eyes gaze at the rivers peacefully. Who built this Buddha statue and why? How large is the giant Buddha? We have listed below the most fun facts and history of the statue to help you understand more about this great man-made Lishan Giant Buddha. 54. Easter Island. Easter Island, a Chilean territory, is a remote volcanic island in Polynesia. Its native name is Rapa Nui. It's famed for archaeological sites, including nearly 900 monumental statues called moa, created by inhabitants during the 13th, 16th centuries. The moa are carved human figures with oversized heads, often resting on massive stone pedestals called ahus. Ahu Tongariki has the largest group of upright moa. When and why these people left their native land remains a mystery. But what is clear is that they made a small, uninhabited island with rolling hills and a lush carpet of palm trees their new home, eventually naming their 63 square miles of paradise Rapa Nui, now popularly known as Easter Island. Scholars estimate that between 15,000 to 20,000 people lived on Rapa Nui at the peak of its habitation. About 5,000 people live on Easter Island today, and thousands of tourists come to see the anthropomorphic moa statues each year. Easter Island, Spanish Isla de Pascua, also called Rapa Nui, Chilean dependency in the eastern Pacific Ocean. It is the easternmost outpost of the Polynesian island world. It is famous for its giant stone statues. Known as Rapa Nui to its earliest inhabitants, the island was christened Paus Island, or Easter Island, by Dutch explorers in honor of the day of their arrival in 1722. It was annexed by Chile in the late 19th century and now maintains an economy based largely on tourism. The palm trees that once covered the island were callously cut down by the Rapa Nui population to move statues. With no trees to anchor the soil, fertile land eroded away, resulting in poor crop yields, while a lack of wood meant Icelanders couldn't build canoes to access fish or move statues. Moa were toppled, decapitated and tortured by angry Rapa Nui. In the 1600s, Easter Island was at the height of its civilization. This careless use of resources was the primary contributor to Easter Island's collapse. The Rapa Nui were so intent on their projects that they underestimated the extent of their resources. But the most likely cause of the downfall of Rapa Nui society is disease brought about by slavery. According to Easter Island, the truth revealed, approximately 1,500 to 2,000 people, half the population, were taken in 1862 in a raid by slave traders from Peru to work there, predominantly in agriculture. With no trees to anchor the soil, fertile land eroded away resulting in poor crop yields, while a lack of wood meant Icelanders couldn't build canoes to access fish or move statues. This led to internecine warfare and, ultimately, cannibalism. Ever since the Dutchman Jacob Roggeveen, the first European known to have reached Easter Island, arrived in 1722, scholars have debated the origins of the isolated population he found there. The Rapa Nui are the aboriginal Polynesian inhabitants of Easter Island in the Pacific Ocean. Some scientists say that Easter Island was not inhabited until 700–800 CE. The Austronesian Polynesians, who first settled the island, are likely to have arrived from the Marquesas Islands from the west. These settlers brought bananas, taro, sugarcane, and paper mulberry, as well as chickens and Polynesian rats. Number 55. Aogashima Volcano, Japan. Aogashima is a volcanic Japanese island in the Philippine Sea. The island is administered by Tokyo and is approximately 358 kilometers, 222 miles, south of Tokyo and 64 kilometers, 40 miles, south of Hakejima. It is the southernmost and most isolated inhabited island of the Izu archipelago. Aogashima is a complex quaternary volcanic island 3.5 kilometers in length with a maximum width of 2.5 kilometers, formed by the overlapping remnants of at least 4 submarine calderas. The island is surrounded by very steep rugged cliffs of layered volcanic deposits. The southern coast also rises to a sharp ridge forming one edge of a caldera named Ikenozawa, with a diameter of 1.5 kilometers. The caldera dominates the island, with one point on its southern ridge, Otonbu, with a height of 423 meters, 1,388 feet, as the island's highest point. The caldera is occupied by a secondary cone named Maruyama. Still considered a Class C active volcano by the Japan Meteorological Agency, the last eruption of Aogashima was during a 4-year period from 1781–1785. The history of human settlement on Aogashima is uncertain. Most of the people in Aogashima are Japanese. The island is mentioned in Edo period records kept at Hakejima, which recorded volcanic activity in 1652, and from 1670 to 1680. An earthquake swarm in July 1780 was followed by steam rising from the lakes in the Ikenozawa caldera. Further earthquakes in May 1781 led to an eruption. In April 1783, lava flows from the Maruyama cone resulted in the evacuation of all 63 households on the island. During a massive eruption in 1785, some 140 of the population of 327 Icelanders perished. A far-flung volcanic island 358 kilometers south of Tokyo in the Pacific Ocean, Aogashima is the most remote and topographically interesting island in the Izu archipelago. The entire island is a volcanic crater, within which there is another, smaller volcano. Still largely untouched by tourism, Aogashima is the ultimate destination for nature lovers, explorers, and outdoorsy types. 1 night and 2 days is enough to cover most of the island, but to really take things slow, consider a longer stay. The current shape of the island dates back to a big eruption in 1785, after which Aogashima was uninhabited for 50 years. Today there is a population of some 170 people. Accommodation is limited to a few small B&Bs or the free island campsite. The campsite has minimal facilities, but there is a geothermal sauna nearby where you can also shower and relax. Outside the facility, there are some geothermal vents for cooking eggs and sweet potatoes, available at the island store. Number 56. Hillier Lake, Pink Lake, Western Australia. Lake Hillier is a saline lake on the edge of Middle Island, the largest of the islands and islets that make up the Recherche archipelago in the Goldfields-Esperance region, off the south coast of Western Australia. It is particularly notable for its pink color. A long and thin shore divides the Southern Ocean from the lake. Lake Hillier is about 600 meters, 2,000 feet, in length by about 250 m, 820 feet, in width too. The lake is surrounded by a rim of sand and a dense woodland of papabark and eucalyptus trees, with a narrow strip of sand dunes covered by vegetation separating its northern edge from the northern coast of Middle Island. The most notable feature of the lake is its pink, vibrant color. The vibrant color is permanent, and does not alter when the water is taken in a container. The pink color is considered to be due to the presence of the organism Dunaliella salina for the Extreme Microbiome Project, part of the Association of Biomolecular Resource Facilities, ABRF, Metagenomics Research Group, MGRG, has performed a metagenomic analysis on the lake to find Dunaliella as well as Salinibacter ruber, Dichloromonas aromatica, and a few species of the Archaea. 5 Air is the best mode of transportation for viewing the lake. At one point in its history the lake was used to collect salt. Lake Hillier was visited by the Matthew Flinders expedition on January 15, 1802. Flinders' journal entries are considered to be the first written records of the lake. Flinders observed the Pink Lake after ascending the island's highest peak, now called Flinders Peak, describing the lake as follows. 6 In the northeastern part was a small lake of a rose color, the water of which, as I was informed by Mr. Thistle who visited it, was so saturated with salt that sufficient quantities were crystallized near the shores to load a ship. The specimen he brought on board was of a good quality, and required no other process than drying to be fit for use. Flinders visited Middle Island again in May 1803. He intended to stop a day or two in Goose Island Bay, for the purposes of procuring geese for our sick people, seal oil for our lamps, and a few casks of salt from the lake on Middle Island. It is reported that Flinders subsequently named the lake after William Hillier, a crew member of Investigator who died of dysentery on May 20, 1803 prior to the expedition's departure from Middle Island. 7-8 In 1889 9 Edward Andrews investigated the commercial possibilities of producing salt from Lake Hillier, and briefly moved on to the island with both of his sons. 10 They left after working the salt deposits for about 1 year. 9 The lake was subject to salt mining during the late 19th century. The salt mining enterprise is reported as failing for a number of reasons, including the toxicity of the salt collected for consumption. 8. Number 57. Chittorgarh Fort, India. The Chittor Fort or Chittorgarh is the largest fort in India. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The fort was the capital of Mewar and is located in the present-day town of Chittor. It sprawls over a hill 180 m in height, spread over an area of 280 ha above the plains of the valley drained by the Birach River. Chittorgarh, Gar means fort, was originally called Chitrakat. It is said to have been built by the local Maurya ruler Chitrangada Maurya. According to one legend, the name of the fort is derived from its builder. It is believed that the fort of Chittorgarh was constructed by Chitrangad Maurya of the Maurya dynasty way back in the 7th century AD. Later, Baparaval, the founder of Mewar dynasty, made Chittorgarh his capital. Chittagong used to be the capital of the Sisodia dynasty of Mewar. Famous for the Jawahar that Rani Padmini and Rani Karnavati underwent during siege, the Chittagong fort has seen a lot of valiant battles. The fort is the largest one in India, and attracts tourists in a large number throughout the year. In 1567 Emperor Akbar decided to teach it a lesson. He attacked Chittagong, razed it to the ground. 5 years later Maharana Pratap, reigned 1572–97, came to rule Mewar, a king without a capital. Just like the fort of Jaisalmer, Chittagong fort is a living fort with many villages calling it their home. It is highly recommended to spend a day at leisure in Chittagong. For a tour around the fort, it is advisable to hire a guide. Here are our top 10 recommendations for places to visit in Chittagong. Number 58. Neuschwanstein Castle, Germany. Neuschwanstein Castle is a 19th century Romanesque revival palace on a rugged hill above the village of Hohenschwangau near Füssen in southwest Bavaria, Germany. The palace was commissioned by King Ludwig II of Bavaria as a retreat and in honor of Richard Wagner. Neuschwanstein Castle, which literally translates to New Swan Stone Castle, is located in Bavaria, Germany. It was originally called New Hohenschwangau Castle, as it was meant to be a grand recreation of Hohenschwangau Castle, where Ludwig II spent his childhood. If you plan to visit Neuschwanstein Castle, you cannot choose a better place to stay. The hotel is located just a few hundred meters away from the entrance, so you don't have to climb up the hill from the village. If you book a room, you can drive all the way up and leave your car in the parking lot in front of the hotel. Neuschwanstein Castle, in Germany, is one of the greatest castles in Europe, and one of the world's foremost tourist attractions. Part theater, part fairytale, Neuschwanstein Castle embodies the soul of King Ludwig II of Bavaria, popularly known as Mad King Ludwig. Neuschwanstein Castle, German, Schloss Neuschwanstein, pronounced Ls Anvanten, Southern Bavarian, Schloss Neuschwanstein, is a 19th century Romanesque revival palace on a rugged hill above the village of Hohenschwangau near Füssen in southwest Bavaria, Germany. The palace was commissioned by King Ludwig II of Bavaria as a retreat and in honor of Richard Wagner. Ludwig paid for the palace out of his personal fortune and by means of extensive borrowing, rather than Bavarian public funds. The castle was intended as a home for the king, until he died in 1886. It was opened to the public shortly after his death. Since then more than 61 million people have visited Neuschwanstein Castle. More than 1.3 million people visit annually, with as many as 6,000 per day in the summer. The municipality of Schwangau lies at an elevation of 800 m, 2,620 feet, at the southwest border of the German state of Bavaria. Its surroundings are characterized by the transition between the Alpine foothills in the south, toward the nearby Austrian border, and a hilly landscape in the north that appears flat by comparison. In the Middle Ages, 3 castles overlooked the villages. One was called Schwanstein Castle NB1 in 1832. Ludwig's father King Maximilian II of Bavaria bought its ruins to replace them with the comfortable neo-Gothic palace known as Hohenschwangau Castle. Finished in 1837, the palace became his family's summer residence, and his elder son Ludwig, born 1845, spent a large part of his childhood here. Vorder Hohenschwangau Castle and Hinter Hohenschwangau Castle NB2 sat on a rugged hill overlooking Schwanstein Castle, 2 nearby lakes, Alpsee and Schwansee, and the village. Separated by only a moat, they jointly consisted of a hall, a keep, and a fortified tower house. In the 19th century only ruins remained of the twin medieval castles, but those of Hinter Hohenschwangau served as a lookout place known as Silfenturm 6. The ruins above the family palace were known to the crown prince from his excursions. He first sketched one of them in his diary in 1859. When the young king came to power in 1864, the construction of a new palace in place of the 2 ruined castles became the first in his series of palace building projects. Ludwig called the new palace New Hohenschwangau Castle. Only after his death was it renamed Neuschwanstein. 9. The confusing result is that Hohenschwangau and Schwanstein have effectively swapped names. Hohenschwangau Castle replaced the ruins of Schwanstein Castle, and Neuschwanstein Castle replaced the ruins of the 2 Hohenschwangau castles. Number 59. Nottingham Castle. Nottingham Castle is a castle in Nottingham, England, in a commanding position on a natural promontory known as Castle Rock, with cliffs 130 feet high to the south and west. In the Middle Ages it was a major royal fortress and occasional royal residence. The iconic landmark will close for 2 years as it undergoes major renovations in a bid to create a world-class attraction. Nottingham City Council has confirmed that the castle will open to the public for the last time on June 30th. The castle served as the official residence of Queen Joan, the wife of Henry IV. In 1460 Edward of York had himself declared king at Nottingham Castle. He would later take the throne as Edward IV. He was followed by his brother Richard III, who used Nottingham Castle as his main residence during his brief reign. Nottingham Castle was built for William the Conqueror. After his victory at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, he set about having castles built up and down the country, as he suppressed any revolt against his authority. Most of William's castles were built to a Motte and Bailey design, and Nottingham was no exception. Nottingham used to be called Snottingham back in 600 AD. An Anglo-Saxon chief called Snot gave his name to what is now known as Nottingham. Number 60. Taj Mahal, Agra, India. The Taj Mahal is an ivory-white marble mausoleum on the southern bank of the river Yamuna in the Indian city of Agra. It was commissioned in 1632 by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan to house the tomb of his favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal. It also houses the tomb of Shah Jahan himself. An immense mausoleum of white marble, built in Agra between 1631 and 1648 by order of the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in memory of his favorite wife. The Taj Mahal is the jewel of Muslim art in India and one of the universally admired masterpieces of the world's heritage. The uniqueness of Taj Mahal lies in some truly remarkable innovations carried out by the horticulture planners and architects of Shah Jahan. One such genius planning is the placing of tomb at one end of the quadripartite garden rather than in the exact center, which added rich depth and perspective to the distant view of the monument. It is also one of the best examples of raised tomb variety. The tomb is further raised on a square platform with the four sides of the octagonal base of the minarets extended beyond the square at the corners. The top of the platform is reached through a lateral flight of steps provided in the center of the southern side. The ground plan of the Taj Mahal is in perfect balance of composition, the octagonal tomb chamber in the center, encompassed by the portal halls and the four corner rooms. The plan is repeated on the upper floor. The exterior of the tomb is square in plan, with chamfered corners. The large double-storied domed chamber, which houses the cenotaphs of Mumtaz Mahal and Shah Jahan, is a perfect octagon in plan. The exquisite octagonal marble lattice screen encircling both cenotaphs is a piece of superb workmanship. It is highly polished and richly decorated with inlay work. The borders of the frames are inlaid with precious stones representing flowers executed with wonderful perfection. The hues and the shades of the stones used to make the leaves and the flowers appear almost real. The cenotaph of Mumtaz Mahal is in perfect center of the tomb chamber, placed on a rectangular platform decorated with inlaid flower plant motifs. The cenotaph of Shah Jahan is greater than Mumtaz Mahal and installed more than 30 years later by the side of the latter on its west. The upper cenotaphs are only illusory and the real graves are in the lower tomb chamber, crypt, a practice adopted in the imperial Mughal tombs. Number 61. Cinque Terre, Rio Maggiore, Italy. Rio Maggiore is a village and commune in the province of La Spezia, situated in a small valley in the Liguria region of Italy. It is the first of the Cinque Terre one meets when traveling north from La Spezia. Rio Maggiore is the most southern village of the Cinque Terre, situated just a few minutes by train from La Spezia. It is quite sure that the origins of Rio Maggiore date back to the 8th century, when the inhabitants of the Vara Valley, searching a milder climate to raise grapevines and olive trees without the fear of pirate raids, moved towards the coast. The town climbs up along the ridges overlooking the sea, and it is characterized from the typical stone houses with colored facades and slate roofs. In Riomaggiore starts the Via dell'Amore, Lover's Lane, a wonderful path known for the romantic atmosphere and amazing landscapes. It leads to Manarola and it takes 20 minutes walking. The Cinque Terre villages are linked by a network of paths offering the best opportunity to truly enjoy the unique landscape. All 5 villages are well connected by rail. Regular local trains from Genoa and La Spezia run with high frequency. Cinque Terre is mentioned in documents dating to the 11th century. Monterosso and Vernazzo were settled first and the other villages grew later, whilst within the territory of the Republic of Genoa. In the 16th century the inhabitants reinforced existing forts and built new defense towers to defend the area from attacks by the Turks. Cinque Terre experienced economic decline from the 17th to 19th centuries. Citation needed recovering when an arsenal was built in La Spezia and it gained a railway link to Genoa. The railway led to migration from the area and a decline in traditional industries until the growth of tourism from the 1970s onwards brought some prosperity. The predominant crops in the area have been grapes and olives. Some fishermen were based in Monterosso, but the area's gaily painted fishermen's cottages were conceived in the late 1970s as a tourist attraction. On October 25, 2011, torrential rains caused floods and mudslides in Cinque Terre. 9 people were killed and villages were severely damaged, particularly Vernazza and Monterosso. Almere won. The heavy rainfall event was favored by the crisis of the traditional and less remunerative cultivation of terraced landscapes, which 60 years before started a progressive decline and reduction of maintenance. It was partially balanced by the vegetation that spontaneously developed on abandoned terraces, a role underlined by a part of the existing scientific literature too. Number 62. Fairy Pools, Isle of Skye, Scotland. The Fairy Pools are on the Isle of Skye, on Scotland's west coast. The nearest village is Carbost, about 5.5 miles away, and the start of the trail is on the road to Glenbrittle. Park in the Forestry Commission gravel lot. Look for the sign, Glumagin na Sithakian. Below it also says Fairy Pools. Accessible only by a foot hike through the Glenbrittle forest, the series of small waterfalls that make up the so-called fairy pools are some of the most pristine swimming holes in the world. On a sunny day, the turquoise waters of the natural pools are so clear, one can readily see each moss-covered stone at the bottom. Located at the foot of the Quillan Mountains, the crystal-clear water flows between pools with waterfalls of various shapes and sizes. On wet, cloudy days after a good rain, torrents of water rush and whirl in thunderous cascades. This first waterfall marks the start of the magical pools. Take some time to work your way up the river and explore all the pools. Some of the pools make great swimming, but rarely get warm. A wetsuit is a good option. This first waterfall is the highest fall and deepest pool. For the brave only, there are some great high jumps. On the other side of the river from the path it is possible to jump into deep blue pool, approximately 10 meters high. Follow the main path up beside the river to find more pools. The next pool up is properly the most famous, a beautifully clear blue pool idea for swimming. It features a natural arch, offering an exhilarating underwater swim through the arch. There are many small pools as you work your way up the river. At foot of the Black Quillans near Glenbrittle are the Fairy Pools, beautifully crystal clear blue pools on the River Brittle. These famous pools entice visitors from all over the world, as they make some great wild swimming for those brave enough to enter the cold water. Known in Gaelic as An Eilean's Githianage, or the Island of Mists, this is a place where the line between fact and fiction becomes rather blurred. This is probably the reason that certain places on Skye are named after the little people, including the Fairy Bridge, Fairy Glen, Fairy Knoll, and the Fairy Pools. Fairy pools of the Isle of Skye featured in the 2 top pools are divided by a stone arch that people like to dive underneath. Though water temperatures are always chilly, approximately 11 degrees Celsius, the best time to blend with nature is late autumn. Number 63. Mamanica Islands, Fiji. The Mamanica Islands of Fiji are a volcanic archipelago lying to the west of Nadi and to the south of the Yasawa Islands. The group, a popular tourist destination, consists of about 20 islands, but about 7 of these are covered by the Pacific Ocean at high tide. The islands offer crystal clear waters, palm-fringed sandy beaches and live coral reefs. There are islands, villages, resorts to visit, snorkel and swim. The coastal/marine ecosystem and recreation value of the archipelago contribute to its national significance as outlined in Fiji's Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan 1 since 2016. The islands have been the filming location of the television series Survivor. One of the islands, Manuriki, was made famous as the anonymous island that featured in the 2000 Robert Zemeckis film, Castaway, starring Tom Hanks. Port Dinara is the gateway to the Mamanica and Yasawa Islands. One may take day trips from Dinara to the Mamanica Islands or find a resort to stay overnight. Activities in the Mamanicas include sailing, swimming, snorkeling, kayaking, semi-submersible coral viewing, diving, swimming with reef sharks, windsurfing, hiking, visiting villages, mini-golf and discovering secluded beaches. The Mamanica Islands, pronounced Mamanata, are located just offshore from the west coast of Viti Levu. Volcanic in origin, the Mamanicas are home to many of Fiji's more traditional resorts, such as Mana, Beachcomber, Castaway, and Plantation Island. The islands are characterized by exceptionally good weather and their proximity to Nadi International Airport, which is 10 minutes away by plane or approximately an hour by boat, makes them very popular with tourists. In addition to the numerous mid-range and upscale properties, there are also very basic backpacker accommodations on Mana and several of the other islands. All of the resort islands have fine beaches, some of the best in Fiji. Diving in the area is also excellent. Those interested in learning how to dive might consider taking a course at any of the resorts. The generally good weather makes it a good venue for beginners. You also don't have the strong currents found in Tevunai and the outer islands, which can be problematic for novices. Number 64. Palau. Palau is an archipelago of over 500 islands, part of the Micronesia region in the western Pacific Ocean. Koror Island is home to the former capital, also named Koror, and is the island's commercial center. The larger Babeldaob has the present capital, Engerol Mud, plus mountains and sandy beaches on its east coast. In its north, ancient basalt monoliths known as Badrul Chalai in grassy fields surrounded by palm trees. Palau is most famous for scuba diving. One of the most famous dive sites, Blue Corner, with constant sharks and a high current, is located less than 1 hour's boat ride from most resorts. There are also tours to World War II battlefields on Palau. Palau, country in the western Pacific Ocean. It consists of some 340 coral and volcanic islands perched on the Kyushu Palau Ridge. The Palau, also spelled Bilau or Palau, archipelago lies in the southwest corner of Micronesia, with Guam 830 miles, 1,330 kilometers, to the northeast, New Guinea 400 miles, 650 kilometers, to the south, and the Philippines 550 miles, 890 kilometers, to the west. A huge barrier reef system, continuous on the west and broken on the east, encircles most of the archipelago. Its major populated islands are Babelthuape, Babeldaob, Koror, Malakal, Arakabasan, and Paliliu. The sparsely populated Kayangel Islands to the north of Babelthuape and the raised coral islands of Angaur, Sunsarol, Piloena, and Toby south of Paliliu lie outside the barrier reef system. Palau was a member of the UN Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands, which was established in 1947 and administered by the United States. The U.S. government dissolved the trusteeship in 1986, but repeated measures to win the required support for a compact of free association between Palau and the United States were unsuccessful until 1993. The Republic of Palau officially became a sovereign state on October 1, 1994. Number 65. Giant's Causeway, Ireland. The Giant's Causeway is an area of about 40,000 interlocking basalt columns, the result of an ancient volcanic fissure eruption. It is located in County Antrim on the north coast of Northern Ireland, about 3 miles northeast of the town of Bushmills. Giant's Causeway and Causeway Coast. The Giant's Causeway lies at the foot of the basalt cliffs along the sea coast on the edge of the Antrim Plateau in Northern Ireland. It is made up of some 40,000 massive black basalt columns sticking out of the sea. It's called the Giant's Causeway because, according to legend, it was actually the work of Irish giant Finn McCool, who created it in order to cross Scotland so he could go into battle against his enemy Bonandanir. It was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1986 and is Northern Ireland's only one. Giant's Causeway is free to visit. You do not need to pay the visitor center to see the Giant's Causeway. The Giant's Causeway Visitor Center is not part of the Giant's Causeway. It is built around 1 mile from the actual causeway. Formed 50 to 60 million years ago, during the Paleogene period, the Giant's Causeway resulted from successive flows of lava inching toward the coast and cooling when they contacted the sea. While HBO's hit series Game of Thrones is filmed all over Europe, many of its most important locations can be found on the rugged and wild coast of Northern Ireland. Although it hasn't been used in the show, Giant's Causeway is a crucial location in Northern Ireland. The story goes that the Irish giant Fionn Mac Cumhale, Finn MacCool, from the Fenian cycle of Gaelic mythology, was challenged to a fight by the Scottish giant Bonandanir. Fionn accepted the challenge and built the causeway across the North Channel so that the two giants could meet. The Giant's Causeway is absolutely spectacular, and I personally would consider it one of the world's natural wonders. Saying that I am not sure how practical is to spend at least one day only to see it, and most part of this day you'd be driving, especially if this is your first time to Ireland. The Giant's Causeway and Causeway Coast is not only beautiful, and therefore of huge aesthetic importance, but also important as the 40,000 interlocking basalt columns are also testament to a major stage in the Earth's development.
Yeah, boy!
Number 66. Glass Beach, California, USA. Glass Beach is a beach adjacent to Macaricher State Park near Fort Bragg, California, that is abundant in sea glass created from years of dumping garbage into an area of coastline near the northern part of the town. It is illegal to remove any glass from Glass Beach. This is a great place to take kids who can explore around but watch them near the water, which can be dangerous. There is a wide path to the beach from the parking area on Glass Beach Road a couple blocks west of Highway 1, down West Elm Street. Glass Beach is a beach adjacent to Macaricher State Park near Fort Bragg, California, that is abundant in sea glass created from years of dumping garbage into an area of coastline near the northern part of the town. In 1906, Fort Bragg residents established an official water dump site behind the Union Lumber Company onto what is now known as Site 1. Most waterfronted communities had water dump sites discarding glass, appliances, and even vehicles. Two locals referred to it as the dumps. 3 fires were often lit using Molotov cocktails to reduce the size of the trash pile. 3 When the original dump site filled up in 1943, the site was moved to what is now known as Site 2, the active dump site from 1943 until 1949. When this beach became full in 1949, the dump was moved north to what is now known as Glass Beach, which remained an active dump site until 1967. The California State Water Resources Control Board and city leaders closed this area in 1967. 3 various cleanup programs were undertaken through the years to correct the damage. Over the next several decades, what was biodegradable in the dump sites simply degraded, and all the metal and other items were eventually removed and sold as scrap or used in art. The pounding waves broke down the glass and pottery and tumbled those pieces into the small, smooth, colored pieces that often become jewelry quality, which cover Glass Beach and the other 2 glass beaches, former dump sites. In Fort Bragg 3 There are 3 Glass Beach sites in Fort Bragg where trash was dumped into the ocean between 1906 and 1967. Site 2, 1943 to 1949, and 3, 1949, 1967, Glass Beach, are located at the end of the path that begins on the corner of Elm Street and Glass Beach Drive. These sites are accessible by foot and by a short climb down the cliffs surrounding the beach. Site 1, 1906, 43, is 1/4 mile south of Site 2 and has become accessible by foot as of January 2015 when the northern section of the new coastal trail in Fort Bragg opened. In 1998, the private owner of the property began a 5-year process of working with the California Coastal Conservancy and the California Integrated Waste Management Board for the cleanup and sale of the property to the state. Following completion of the cleanup, the California Department of Parks and Recreation purchased the 38-acre, 15-ha, property adjacent to Glass Beach, and it was incorporated into Macaricher State Park in October 2002. For all of the actual Glass Beach, Site 3, is adjacent to Macaricher State Park. All entities in California end at the mean high water mark, MHW, according to Article 10 of the state constitution. In Fort Bragg, the mean high water mark is 5.2, and all of Glass Beach, Site 3, is below that water mark. Sites 1 and 2 are located south of Glass Beach and do not abut the state park area, though they abut the new city park area, which also ends at the mean high water mark. Number 67. Glowworm Cave, New Zealand. The Waitomo Glowworm Caves attraction is a cave at Waitomo on the North Island of New Zealand. It is known for its population of Arachnocampal luminosa, a glowworm species found exclusively in New Zealand. This cave is part of the Waitomo Streamway system that includes the Ruakuri Cave, Lucky Strike, and Tumutumu Cave. Known as one of New Zealand's best natural attractions, take a boat ride through the Glowworm Grotto, marvel at thousands of magical glowworms and become part of over 130 years of cultural and natural history. In New Zealand and Australia, glowworms are the larvae, maggots, of a special kind of fly known as a fungus gnat. One species, Arachnocampal luminosa, is found throughout New Zealand, and others occur in Australia. Every year, thousands of travelers come to Waitomo to see the famous glowworms that line the ceilings of the nearby caves. The glowworms emit a phosphorescent glow that shines from the inside of the caves like a starry night. Glowworms are the larval stage in the life of an insect called the fungus gnat. Just as maggots grow into common houseflies, glowworms grow to become fungus gnats, which are similar to mosquitoes, but glowworm is a much nicer word to use than glow maggots. The New Zealand glowworm is one of many creatures that naturally produce light, bioluminescence. The light is used to attract insects lost in the dark, which the glowworm catches and eats. There are a number of ways to see the glowworms. There's the 3-hour Blackwater tubing trip, the 5-hour trip that includes obseiling and climbing, or you can explore via foot and boat. Traveling with quite a bit of camera gear, we decided to go for the foot and boat tour with Spellbound. The Glowworm Caves of New Zealand are one of the country's up-and-coming natural attractions, so be sure to pay a visit before the really big crowds appear. Found across the North Island and South Island alike, there are a variety of glow caves across New Zealand to visit, so you're bound to find one you can explore wherever your holiday takes you. Number 68. Big Island, Hawaii, USA. The Big Island, officially named Hawaii, is the largest island in the United States Hawaiian archipelago in the Central Pacific. Its diverse terrain spans colored sand beaches at Papakolea, green, and Honolulu, black, to lush rainforest. Within Volcanoes National Park, there are 2 active volcanoes, Kilauea and Mauna Elohe. Hapuna Beach and Kahului Beach Park in the west are popular snorkeling sites. The island of Hawaii. The Hawaii Island, also known as the Big Island, is the largest of the island chain. As self-explanatory as it is stunning, the Big Island boasts some of Hawaii's most varying landscape. Much of the island is undeveloped because there isn't a huge demand for housing. Employment opportunities are very limited on the Big Island, locally known as Hawaii Island. It's the largest island in the state but is home to less than 15% of the state's total population. Hawaii, volcanic island, Hawaii, U.S. It lies southeast of Maui Island and constitutes Hawaii County. Known as the Big Island, it is the southeasternmost and largest of the Hawaiian Islands. Its area of some 4,030 square miles, 10,438 square km, continues to grow as Kilauea, the world's most active volcano, continues to pour lava into the ocean. The island is formed by 5 volcanoes, Hualalai, Kilauea, Kohala, Mauna Kea, and Mauna Elohe, that are connected by lava saddles, ridges, and is the youngest island geologically of the Hawaiian Islands. Mauna Elohe, 13,677 feet 4,169 meters, located some 25 miles, 40 kilometers, west of Kilauea, is considered the world's largest volcano. The 2 volcanoes are the main feature of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, which has been designated a World Heritage Site. The island is roughly triangular in shape. Its highest point, Mauna Kea, 13,796 feet 4,205 meters, is also the highest point in the state. Hawaii's varied topography includes misty plateaus, craggy ocean cliffs, tropical coastal areas, lava deserts, and fern and bamboo forests, in addition to the often snow-capped peak of Mauna Kea. The volcanoes form an effective barrier to the moisture-laden trade winds and thereby make the western side of the island the driest region in Hawaii. Number 69. Ha Long Bay, Vietnam. Ha Long Bay, in northeast Vietnam, is known for its emerald waters and thousands of towering limestone islands topped by rainforests. Junk boat tours and sea kayak expeditions take visitors past islands named for their shapes, including Stone Dog and Teapot Islets. The region is popular for scuba diving, rock climbing, and hiking, particularly in mountainous Cat Ba National Park. Honestly, Ha Long Bay is otherworldly. The sea is bright green, and there are so many karst islands and rocks rising from the water in every direction that it looks misty. There are caves, secret lagoons, and sea gypsies. Despite all the negatives, I wouldn't hesitate in saying that Ha Long Bay is 100% worth it. Ha Long Bay is said to be one of the best places to swim in Vietnam with numerous beaches. The bay is not only an ideal place for sunbathing with dazzling sunlight, but also a beautiful beach with calm tides, clean, and green water. Ha Long Bay, Vietnamese Vinh Ha Long, where the dragon descends to the sea, bay on the northwest coast of the Gulf of Tonkin, near the city of Ha Long, Hong Gai, Quang Ninh Province, northern Vietnam. So far, there are no sharks found or any warning for shark appearance in Ha Long Bay. If you are traveling on a cruise ship, just follow all safety instructions by the cruise operator when you go swimming and kayaking, then you do not have anything to worry about. Ha Long Bay, as known as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is famous because its stunning limestone mountains raising up from emerald waters that formed from thousands years ago. You also can have a chance to explore amazing caves as well as the culture of Ha Long. Ha Long Bay is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that covers some 150,000 hectares. All of the islands and surrounding cliffs are made of limestone, which has been steadily eroded over the centuries to create what's left today, the towering pillars topped with greenery and the sheer cliffs that enclose the bay. Ha Long Bay is a beautiful natural wonder in northern Vietnam near the Chinese border. The bay is dotted with 1,600 limestone islands and islets and covers an area of over 1,500 sq.km. This extraordinary area was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. For many tourists, this place is like something right out of a movie. The fact is that Ha Long Bay features a wide range of biodiversity, while the surrealistic scenery has indeed featured in endless movies. The best way to get to Ha Long City is by car, minibus, or bus from Hanoi, which is only 170 kilometers away. If budget is not a problem, an hour-long helicopter transfer is also available. 70. Fingal's Cave, Scotland. Fingal's Cave is a sea cave on the uninhabited island of Staffa, in the Inner Hebrides of Scotland, known for its natural acoustics. The National Trust for Scotland owns the cave as part of a national nature reserve. Fingal's Cave, most famous of the sea caves in the basalt southwest coast of Staffa, an island of the Inner Hebrides, western Scotland. The cave's arched roof lends it remarkable natural acoustics that harmoniously echo the sound of the swelling ocean waves within it. Formed over 50 million years ago, Fingal's Cave is located on the uninhabited island of Staffa and contributes to part of a vast network of sea caves. The cave was carved from the same lava flow that shaped the Giant's Causeway, an area of about 40,000 interlocking basalt columns in Northern Ireland. Known as Fingal's Cave, it bears a history and geology unlike any other cave in the world. At 72 feet tall and 270 feet deep, what makes this sea cave so visually astoundingly is the hexagonal columns of basalt, shaped in neat six-sided pillars that make up its interior walls. These fractured columns form a crude walkway just above the water level so that visitors can go far inside and explore the cave. The cave was a well-known wonder of the ancient Irish and Scottish Celtic people and was an important site in the legends. Known to the Celts as Uamite Bin or the Cave of Melody, one Irish legend, in particular, explained the existence of the cave as well as that of the similar Giant's Causeway in Ireland. As both are made of the same neat basalt columns, the legend holds that they were the end pieces of a bridge built by the Irish giant Fionn Mac Cumhale, aka Finn McCool, so he could make it to Scotland where he was to fight Bonandanir, his gigantic rival. The legend, which connects the two structures, is in effect geologically correct. Both the Giant's Causeway and Fingal's Cave were indeed created by the same ancient lava flow, which may have at one time formed a bridge between the two sites. Of course, this happened some 60 million years ago, long before people would have been around to see it. Nonetheless, the deductive reasoning of the ancient peoples formed the connection and base of the legend that the two places must be related. The cave was rediscovered when naturalist Sir Joseph Banks visited it in 1772. At the time of Banks' discovery, Fingal, an ancient epic poem in 6 books, was a very popular poetic series, supposedly translated from an ancient Gaelic epic by Irish poet James Macpherson. The book was an influence on Goethe, Napoleon, and Banks, who promptly named the Scottish cave, which already had the name Uamite Bin, after the Irish legend, calling it Fingal's Cave. Number 71. Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming, USA. Yellowstone National Park is a nearly 3,500 sq mi wilderness recreation area atop a volcanic hotspot. Mostly in Wyoming, the park spreads into parts of Montana and Idaho too. Yellowstone features dramatic canyons, alpine rivers, lush forests, hot springs, and gushing geysers, including its most famous, Old Faithful. It's also home to hundreds of animal species, including bears, wolves, bison, elk, and antelope. Yellowstone National Park, the oldest, one of the largest, and probably the best-known national park in the United States. It is situated principally in northwestern Wyoming and partly in southern Montana and eastern Idaho and includes the greatest concentration of hydrothermal features in the world. The park was established by the U.S. Congress on March 1, 1872, as the country's first national park. It is also generally considered to have been the first national park in the world, though some naturalists and others have argued that there is evidence that indicates that the creation of Yellowstone was predated by the creation of Bogd Khan Mountain National Park in Mongolia, which may date from as early as 1778. Yellowstone was designated a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in 1976 and a World Heritage Site in 1978. The park, which forms a square-like rectangle with an irregular eastern side, is 63 miles, 101 kilometers, from north to south and 54 miles, 87 kilometers, from east to west at its widest point and covers an area of 3,472 square miles, 8,992 square km. The John D. Rockefeller, Jr. Memorial Parkway, an 80-mile, 130 kilometers, scenic roadway that was established in 1972, connects Yellowstone with Grand Teton National Park to the south. In addition, Yellowstone is surrounded by Gallatin, northwest and north, Custer, northeast, Shoshone, northeast and east, Bridger Teton, southeast and south, and Caribou Targhee, southwest. National Forest's headquarters are at Mammoth Hot Springs near the northern entrance to the park. Number 72. Zion National Park, Utah, USA. Zion National Park is a southwest Utah nature preserve distinguished by Zion Canyon's steep red cliffs. Zion Canyon Scenic Drive cuts through its main section, leading to forest trails along the Virgin River. The river flows to the Emerald Pools, which have waterfalls and a hanging garden. Also along the river, partly through deep chasms, is Zion Narrows wading hike. The park's principal feature is Zion Canyon, which received its name from the Mormons who discovered it, 1858, and settled there in the early 1860s. A portion of the area was first set aside as Mukunchewep National Monument in 1909. The monument was enlarged and renamed Zion National Monument in 1918 and was established as a national park in 1919. The park was enlarged in 1956, by the addition of adjacent land that had also been named Zion National Monument but is now called Kalab Canyons. The entire park now occupies 229 square miles, 593 square km. The park's layers of sedimentary rock give evidence of its geologic origins. The area has, in the past 230 million years, been underwater, uplifted, covered with volcanic ash, dried into a windswept desert, flooded again, and, 13 million years ago, thrust upward once more. Rivers heavy with sediment began the erosion process responsible for Zion's dramatic canyon and valley formations. Zion Canyon, for example, carved by the Virgin River, is about 15 miles, 25 kilometers, long and some 2,000 to 3,000 feet, 600 to 900 meters, deep. The rocky domes and pinnacles that dot the canyon walls range in color from rust red at lower elevations to nearly white at the summits. The abundant fossil record of the walls has yielded evidence that prehistoric peoples, basket makers, see ancestral Pueblo culture and Pueblo Indians, once inhabited the area. The Great White Throne, a giant monolith on one canyon wall, rises 2,394 feet, 730 meters, above the canyon floor. Among the park's other sites are Emerald Pools, Weeping Rock, and the Temple of Sinueva, all in Zion Canyon, and Kalab Arch, in the Kalab Canyons area. Number 73. Great Blue Hole is a large submarine sinkhole off the coast of Belize. The Great Blue Hole is a giant marine sinkhole off the coast of Belize. It lies near the center of Lighthouse Reef, a small atoll 70 kilometers, 43 miles, from the mainland and Belize City. The hole is circular in shape, 318 m, 1,043 feet, across and 124 m, 407 feet, deep. Researchers have suggested that this massive submarine sinkhole was originally formed during the last glacial period as a limestone cave when the sea levels were lower. However, the cave was later flooded when the sea began to rise, eventually resulting in the formation of a circular hole. There's a massive underwater sinkhole off the coast of Belize that extends 125 meters into the Earth's crust. Past the conch graveyard and toward the bottom of the hole, around 120 meters deep, the team found something they did not expect: small stalactites. The Great Blue Hole is the world's largest sinkhole, measuring an incredible 300 meters, 984 feet, across and roughly 125 meters, 410 feet, deep. Still, you can expect to swim through crystal clear water and encounter marine species that include sharks, like the Caribbean reef shark, and you may even see a hammerhead or bull shark. Today, the Great Blue Hole in Belize is about 300 meters in diameter and 124 meters deep. While people dive, snorkel and freedive the Blue Hole all the time, I certainly did, it isn't the dive itself that's so dangerous. It's the arch and the underwater tunnel that most divers aren't properly equipped to take on, that is. Because they're deep. Too deep for anyone who isn't a technical diver. In December 2018, after diving 125 meters, 410 feet, to the very bottom of the Blue Hole in a specially equipped submarine, the team noticed something strange. There, on the sand, were a set of tracks. While it might be fun to imagine, the owner of these prints is not some monster of the deep lurking just out of sight. As it turns out, the truth is less mysterious and more heartbreaking. It's true that the tracks are a sign of life, but it's not flourishing life. Instead, they are the remains of living things struggling to survive at the bottom of the world's largest sinkhole, a place where the water is anoxic, containing zero oxygen whatsoever. In a recent blog post, the chief submarine pilot on the expedition Erica Bergman explains that it's not uncommon for conches to accidentally fall over the edge of the blue hole. Unable to crawl up the steep walls once again, these creatures inevitably suffocate, leading to what she describes as conch graveyards. We can see each conch with little tracks back up the hill trying to escape, then a slide mark where it slid back down after presumably being asphyxiated in the anoxic environment, writes Bergman. Number 74. Horsetail Falls, Yosemite National Park. Horsetail Fall, located in Yosemite National Park in California, is a seasonal waterfall that flows in the winter and early spring. The fall occurs on the east side of El Capitan. The firefall only occurs at sunset in mid to late February. During that time, the setting sun hits Yosemite Valley at just the right angle to illuminate the upper reaches of Horsetail Fall. February 17th to 19th is generally considered the peak, but the firefall can light up nicely 6 to 7 days before or 3 to 4 days after the peak. To view Horsetail Fall, park at Yosemite Falls Parking, just west of Yosemite Valley Lodge, and walk 1.5 miles, each way, to the viewing area near El Capitan picnic area. Vault toilets, along with trash and recycling dumpsters, are available at the picnic area. Despite howls of protest from the public, the National Park Service stood firm in its decision to permanently end the Yosemite Firefall. A final ceremonial firefall was held on January 25, 1968. Firefall is the name for the natural magic trick that creates the illusion at the park in California. It comes to life when the setting sun causes light to hit the waterfall at just the right angle. You can only see Firefall for a short time in February, and it draws hundreds of visitors each night. The best times to visit Yosemite are May and September, when the park is accessible but not too crowded. It's important to know that many roads and trails in Yosemite are closed for the majority of the year due to snow. Horsetail Fall is a small, seasonal waterfall located on the eastern side of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. Despite its thin water flow, it drops an impressive 1,570 feet to the valley floor before merging with the Merced River below. In late February, the waterfall is known to become illuminated with deep shades of yellow, orange, and then red as the sun sets below the horizon. This impressive phenomenon, nicknamed Firefall, can only be seen if the conditions are perfect. Some have tried to capture this event for over half a decade only to later go home empty-handed. There are multiple elements that must come together in order for the waterfall to light up. Firstly, the fall will only light up during a small window of time, from around mid to late February. This is due to the ever-rotating direction of the Sunday. Secondly, there must be enough water flowing down Horsetail Fall. Without this element, the light will merely just light up the rock and the scene won't be nearly as interesting. California has been in a historic drought for years, so Firefall hasn't exactly been exceptional in quite a while. Luckily, there had been a decent amount of snowfall in Yosemite this year, so it didn't look like that was going to be a problem. Next, the sky in the west must be clear of clouds. Even if the clouds